So, just to be absolutely clear, there'll be more with Rowan in Take Two. We've got loads of listener questions, lots of clips from some of his movies to talk about.
You have done this work before, haven't you?
No, actually. I'm new to the company.
You've never done house sitting before?
No, not as such. But please don't worry. I have a house too. Well, I used to have a house, so all this is very familiar territory.
Huh.
Oh, here, I'll get that for you. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Oh, dear. I'll just...
Orlando used to call us every day, if you wouldn't mind doing the same.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Have a good holiday, Mrs...
Kolstad, Bergen, Batten.
That's it. Bye. Have a good time.
Did you mention everything that you wanted to mention, Mark, for Man vs. Bee?
Yeah, I mean, just a few thoughts, which were, I mean, it's interesting, the thing about, Serial, which does take us back to the kind of early days of cinema, and obviously so much of what's happening in Man vs. Bee is a kind of slapstick comedy, which again is absolutely where silent cinema is rooted. That thing about you can watch it as a movie, I mean, I actually pretty much did, because, obviously, as Rowan said, you watch it on Netflix and it will roll on to the next one. I think there is a virtue in breaking it up, because I think that because of the way those 10-minute sequences are constructed, if you do just watch them back to back to back, I think it's actually probably a less enjoyable experience than enjoying them as 10-minute segments. The other thing is that thing about the central character being more sympathetic, what I was pretentiously saying, more Chaplin-esque. And, I've read a lot of reviews in which people have said, not like Mr. Bean because, more human. That what that kind of highlights is how much the Mr. Bean character is actually on the edge of horror. And I've always thought this thing about there is a very thin line between comedy and horror. Things which are scary and things which are funny often come very close to each other. And as the central character in Man vs. Bee descends into battling with the bee, I think we do tip back over into that, because the behavior is completely psychotic. And of course, my natural reaction is to go, please don't knock that statue over. Please don't put that. And incidentally, we know at the beginning that all this is going to happen because the film starts with a montage because he's in court and he's been found guilty of doing a bunch of terrible things, destroying property, destroying artwork, stealing cars. And then what happens is it flashes back and we see how this happens. And the way it happens is that he's going to do something which he doesn't know how to do. He doesn't know how to look after the house. Nobody would know how to look after that house. The instruction manual wouldn't even begin to cover all the kind of the things that you have to do. But he is diverted from that very simple course by the fact that he becomes obsessed with the bee. And rather than just doing what an actually normal sympathetic character would do, which is just live with the bee drives him to such distraction that by about sort of 60 minutes in, we're talking about, and we see this at the beginning, so again, I'm not giving away a plot spoiler, he's taking an electrical saw to the side of a vintage sports car.
Which is almost certainly his. Yes, probably actually really, really belongs to Rowan.
So there is that kind of, it is psychosis. And my own personal feeling is that there is a virtue in that being in 10-minute segments, rather like a serial in which, it's like Tom and Jerry. Tom and Jerry in those short segments, the madness of what's going on makes sense. But if you try and expand that into a 90-minute thing, it becomes fairly relentless. So my advice would actually be the 10-minute segments thing does make sense and is actually beneficial to the humor, because that level of slapstick, if you just have it as a single watch, can become quite relentless.
It's just fascinating to talk to him because I have never interviewed him before, I don't think. And just to see someone working through the engineering and the structure of the comedy and the movie was fascinating, I think.
Yeah, and I think the thing that, I mean, anybody who's ever seen slapstick comedy be created knows that it is, and I don't mean this is a bad thing, it is a very mechanical process. It is a logistics process. The timing of comedy is absolutely ruthless, and the timing of physical comedy is like circus acrobatics. You have to make it look like it's completely happening on the fly, but it has to be worked and machine tooled to go like that. And it was interesting that that kind of that idea that, if you're somebody who's interested in mechanics, if you're interested in cars and projectors and all those sort of things, the mechanics of physical comedy are absolutely mechanical in the best sense of the word. You can't just take here we go. You can't be slapdash about slapstick.
Hey!
Thank you very much.
Very good. Very good. And there'll be more with Rowan Atkinson in take 2.